Here's how I remade this sound from SOPHIE's song Face Shopping. If you want to just get this preset and not have to watch this tutorial, go to my Patreon. It's $5. So you might have seen a short where I broke down how to make this patch, but there's really just not enough time in 60 seconds to do it. So first, get a drum. It doesn't really matter what drum you use, but you want to get one that has a good couple harmonics. I tried it with kicks. I tried it with stomps. Actually, everything that I used ended up with cool and different results. So just experiment with this part. Then you're going to want to turn this on. It's one-shot mode, which just stops it from playing the sample over and over again when you press the key. And then key tracking makes it to where whenever you play different keys, it's in tune, or it changes the tune of it. Then you just have to go in and pick the correct pitch for the sample, which was 10 semitones on this one. This is the melody right here. Then the next thing you're going to want to do is turn on mono and legato in always, and then turn the portamento up. I have mine set to 83 milliseconds, but you can really just experiment with that. And as you can as you'll hear here, what those three do basically, really it's just the portamento always being on that's important. I don't know why I mentioned all three of them, but as you can hear, it just takes 83 milliseconds to bend between those, and that's going to be important for this one because there's a good amount of bend to the original sound. Next, I have oscillator A, which is a sine wave. I'm FMing from the noise, so I can turn the level off on that. You can also do it with the level on, so just to show what that sounds like, I'll leave the LFO1 modulation that I'm using on the level right here. It's probably the next important thing to talk about. So LFO1, you have to set it to an 1/8 note, which is the length of each of these notes right here. Turn trigger on so it replays when every note plays, and then LFO2, set it to off so that the note being pressed doesn't reset it, and set the rate to 1/4, which is double the length. And just to kind of explain why you need double the length, it's because I want different sounds on these two different notes here. The first note, since the way this one is written, is 1 high note, 2 high note, 1 2 1 high note 2, and then kind of like implied high note there. There's not really a note playing, but just every first note I think happens on this portion of it. So with the sine wave and the FM happening, you basically have this sound right here. Then we're going to add a pulse width modulated DS. I don't know what this really refers to, but I'll turn oscillator A off, and we're going to FM from noise 80%, bring it down 18% with LFO1, so we're LFO1ing the level and the FM. Then when we put LFO2 on the wavetable position, that kind of gives it like a lot more high harmonics, because other than this particular wavetable, there's not a ton in the high end. Then we have a high notch 12 filter, and this one is the first set of weird things that's being done. So I'm going to send all three of the sources through that. I'm going to turn key tracking on for this, and then LFO2 on the panning is going to pan it, as you'll see here, into your left and right ear. And then this little frequency sweep, what the intent of this is, I'll kind of pull it all the way to the bottom just to show this. LFO1 on the cutoff there. What the point of the frequency thing is to like cut out these middle frequencies that are between the fundamental and the high end, because the original sound, that's just the character of it. And I was kind of trying to replicate that. So I have that set to there. LFO2 is on the frequency of that. So as you can see, it's kind of moving between that little range right there. Next important part, I'll turn this off for now. We have LFO2 on both the frequencies, and then LFO1 on the gain here. And with this one set to a band, because there's no gain change, this is just really showing what the left EQ band is doing. And as you can see on the bright notes, it's up here. On the darker notes or the lower notes, it's down there. Then when we turn this to a low pass, as you can see, it's just accentuating that even more. So it means the high notes are really bright, the low notes are much less bright, but still have some weight from this EQ gain band bumping up. Next, and most importantly, this is like the only thing, if you're going to remake this patch and you're like, I don't feel like doing all these steps, just make sure you have this step. This is the most important one. So I have a comb filter, dampness all the way down, LFO1 on the resonance, and I'll bypass that for now, and then LFO2 on the panning, and just make sure it's the same direction. So this one's 20% here and 50% here, but we wouldn't want like -50 and then +20, or -20 and then +50. You want to make sure they're going in the same direction. What that's going to do, I'll really accentuate it. is adds, that's actually way too much, but like it adds like an interesting phasiness to it, especially once you bring the resonance in. So if I kind of bypass this, this is how you get like the, I don't particularly know exactly how SOPHIE did it, but this is one of the ways to get that like really like draggy, weird phase, swingy, distorted, and just interesting moving type sound that the original sound has. So I'm going to turn LFO2 back on. And then we have an OTT, so multiband compression. I know this isn't really called OTT, but I just call it OTT in my tutorials because it's the quickest way to say it. And as you can see down here in the oscilloscope, that's like really bringing the overly loud sound kind of into more of a compressed, squashed range. Then for post effects, we have a good couple here. I'll turn them on one at a time so you can get an idea of what they're doing. First, we have this band. The important thing is it's cutting this low out. So it's cutting below the fundamental and then boosting that high frequency. You could even add like a bump right here, going downwards to like accentuate that original weird high sound and not too much frequency information right there thing if you wanted to. Then we have the wave shaper. This one, if it's turned all the way up, acts as a gate. Then I have compression, and as you'll see here, it's super heavy compression. So if I bring the limiter band off this is compression with no attack and no release, which I normally would never do. But this is a super like blown out distorted sound. So it's okay to have these like super harsh distortion type vibes from a compressor in this particular case. Then I just left the ceiling where it's at, which just normalizes the gain. Again, that's not important, but that's just what this particular remake ended up being. Then we have a small reverb room, so just a reverb that doesn't have this big tail type sound. Right, you can have a little bit of tail, but you just don't want that much. So I brought this down to like here, I think. Then lastly, just adding a Haas delay. And so that's going to do it for this one, y'all. Comment any sounds that you want me to make in future videos below. I'm going to be doing one of these a week, and if it's ever a long tutorial like this that I can't do really well in a short, I'll make a full video out of it. Thank you for watching. I will see y'all in the next one. You can support on Patreon or by buying sample packs on Gumroad in the description. See you in the next one.